Hey everyone, Kyle once again, and welcome back to the next movie review. And welcome for the next movie review for Halloween month, and back to reviewing another werewolf movie. Now it's one that came out this year in 2025, and it's the say another reboot you can say but yeah, and it's the 2020 it's the 2020 I can talk right again. It's the 2025 remake of, well, or reboot, say, of The Wolfman that came out in January of this year, and the film didn't do that well. The film didn't do that well. It cost about 25 million, and it didn't made like 20 million in the U.S. and made about 35 million worldwide. So it was pretty much a flop, basically. And it got mixed reviews from critics. Has 40% Rotten Tomatoes. I think has a 5.6 IMDb. I think. At the end of the day, I was not a fan of this film. Now, is it one of the worst films I've seen this year? No, it's not. It's not even one of the worst films I've seen this year. It's not even by far. It's not one of the worst werewolf movies by far I've seen. So it's not that. It's just a forgettable, boring movie. And that's what this film is. It's because by the end of this year, I pretty much forgot about the movie. So that's the truth. I pretty much forgot most things about this movie, but just try to remember as much as you can because that's how forgettable this film was. And the film is thing is it's directed by Leigh Whannell. Now the guy who wrote the first Saw film, which he also played Adam from the first Saw movie. Who's worked with director James Wan, and for films as he's directed, well, actually, also as an actor, he also was in that zombie kids film Cooties, who's one of the teachers. He's the one who was like, "Quiet, please." Yeah, that was Lee Winnell who played Adam from the first Saw film. But like I said, as a writer, he wrote the first Saw film. As a director, he directed that film called Upgrade, which I was not a fan of though, because I didn't like the ending. I know people who are like fans of that film, but I wasn't. But he did direct the 2020 reboot of The Invisible Man, which I actually surprisingly I did like with Elizabeth Moss. I actually liked that reboot of the Invisible Man. A different modern take on it, kind of like doing it in the vein of Sleeping with the Enemy, and I did like that version. I did. And so he was held to direct another reboot of the classic Universal monsters, and that is of the Wolfman. Okay, at first I was a little bit intrigued because I liked the Invisible Man. Like, so let's see what he does with this version. Now, it's not really a full on Wolfman for we see in the movie from our lead guy. It's like which I reviewed the 2010 remake of the Wolfman with Benicio del Toro. What I mean is that you don't see the guy have a full werewolf form. It's like more like he has more claws, just fangs, right? And it's trying to do its own take, like a version of Wolf, the '90s film with Jack Nicholson, where you don't see Jack Nicholson become a full on werewolf. You just see him get like claws and fangs and stuff like that, right? Still looking human, but with a little bit of those type of features, right? It's kind of trying to do its version, a take on that. So, um, okay, it's a little bit different because we always get full on werewolf forms all the time in films. So okay, doing that, going that little bit of that direction. Okay, but like I said, the film is forgettable. I think it's a forgettable and a boring movie. That's the problem with the film. And you know, and once again, This is from the studio Blumhouse, which I now call Bumhouse. Yeah, so another film from once again from Bumhouse, which I think which if we did, I've said a whole bunch of things about Bumhouse. I reviewed films separately that was from that studio. I'm like, they're starting to become like the next A24. But there was a one or two films I did like from Blumhouse, which I'll give credit to though. I think they also did the Invisible Man reboot, so I can't say anything bad about that though. And give me a second here. I'm trying to see something here. I thought, sorry, I was looking at something. I thought I reviewed a film that was from a recent film from Blumhouse. I thought it was. Try to remember. I can't remember, but I thought there was a film. Oh, I thought it came back to me. I'll remember it afterwards. But there was a film I did not mind that was also recently from Blumhouse. But yeah, they're just starting to become like the next A24 because they've been starting getting very shitty with their horror films recently. But I said that I don't think Leigh Whannell overall did do a bad job directing wise. I just think I didn't care for pretty much for the main cast. I mean, the lead guy is played by Christopher Abbott, which he did films like It Comes at Night, which that was an A24 I was not a fan of, with Joel Egerton. It Comes at Night, that I was not a fan of. He's been in a couple of other films as well. The wife is played by Julia Garner, which she was the female Silver Surfer from the new Fantastic Four film First Steps, which I think she sucked in that movie. But I am sure people here she was just a bland, blasé of a character, and I know a lot of people will probably like her more in the film that got a lot of praise for, Weapons. She was in that film. She was the teacher that people at the times we were accusing of that. Oh, what'd you do with her kids? It was your classroom. What'd you do with them? So yeah, she was in Weapons, which that film got a lot of praise for. I'm sorry, but like she sucked in Fantastic Four, and I did not think she was very bland in this movie. Now I've seen Weapons yet, but I mentioned Weapons before because it was Fantastic Four because of Pedro Pascal, because originally he was supposed to be in Weapons instead of they got Josh Brolin, which I thought was better because I'm getting tired of seeing Pedro Pascal. So, and I like Josh Brolin more of it as an actor, so there's that. But I mentioned that part, but this film, she was just a bland blase of a character, So there's a lot of times she was just pretty much a bored face like this. But there's a moment where she sees that her husband is like chewing his arm as he's chewing on his arm, like so, right? And she's looking at him like this. I'm like, can you snap out of your trance, please, and just try to get much more bit of a reaction? Because you see your husband because he's changing and he's like chewing on his arm, and he was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Get like a reaction like that though. But no, you just sit there and stare like. That's what I mean about Julie Garner's character. And they have a daughter, and then it's this couple. They have a daughter, which for funny thing else, is that she kind of cares more about her father more than her mother. Which I think is okay. Because usually, it's like if it's a daughter, it cares more about the mom more in films, and it's like the son with the father. Like, okay, it's a daughter care more about the father. But it's like, but it doesn't fully explain why she doesn't like her mother more and life favors the dad more. Doesn't fully explain on that part. But the story is in this because we in the 1990s we have the lead guy named Christopher Abbott. His name is Blake, And we get a flashback back to when he was a kid with his dad, Grady, and they're hunting, and they go on this deer tower because they think that something is out there. And then it's when it cuts to the present. Now, it does take, that the father was a little bit abusive to him, and trying to do his own take on that, like, oh well, years later when he grows up, he's gonna be doing like the same thing like he did to his family, like how his father did to him. Is he going to do the same thing? I mean, he has outbursts when it comes to his family, but at times I'm like, I don't blame him, because sometimes either the kid or the wife doesn't listen, because a little more we're like, oh, okay, like the wife, Julia Garner, she's on the phone, and the thing was at the dinner table, and it was like, being talking loudly, and he's like, can you please take this outside, please? I'm like, I don't blame him, because if you're at the dinner table, I think it was, if you're talking on the phone, yeah, step outside, because you're eating with your family, and or the moment where the girl is on the slope, or there's all these cars coming, and he's like, can you get down here? Can you get down here? I'm like, so I don't blame him for these outbursts, because they don't listen. So if they want to do the thing, he's gonna be abusive, well, or shout more, and it's like, well, I don't blame him for those instances, because they're not listening. So I just don't think it was that type of aspect of take on that part was not handled the right way. I just don't think it was. So, um, but so they decided to go up to his father's house that's in the woods. I think this was shot in the woods in Oregon. And if it was, I do like that. I do like the location shots. If there was a positive, I do like the location shots were in the woods. I think it was I think it's in the woods in Oregon. I think it is. So I do like the locations that it's shot at. And I do like some of the camera work that it does with the film, like later on, where as Blake is transforming, how we see like when his vision, because if it's like pitch black outside, we can't see anything, but when he's changing his vision, it becomes like very bright, and he can see, plain as day in the pitch darkness. And there were some like camera angles where it does like almost like a 160, right? I think from his vision, I do like that usage of camera work, and I do like the idea that, okay, from his vision everything is so bright, but when in the back, but like us, it's pitch black and we can't see shit, but to him it's clear as day. I do like that usage of the vision. Or some other aspects I thought was kind of like interesting ideas, where um he kind of gets like super hearing, right? And he's hearing this noise. If I can make this. Sorry about the wiggle of the camera. I'm trying to recreate this noise here. If you can hear that tapping, it's like that, right? That loud tapping. And it's like, what is that sound? And it turns out, which I thought was kind of the scariest part of the movie, because it's this giant ass spider. It's like about this big, the size of my hand. It's making the noise, right? Because each of the step that with the spider of its legs, it makes that very loud sound. All the tapping, that loud tapping it's doing, that's the spider just walking. So he's hearing all of that, and I was like, okay, that's an interesting idea. Where, because we don't hear it, but he does. Because you know how spiders are silent walkers. You don't hear whether they're walking, right? But his enhanced hearing, he can hear the spider legs just walking plain as day, very loudly. And okay, that's an interesting idea. Okay, so like we don't hear it, but he can hear a spider walking. And first of all, that's a big ass spider, which period, that's the scariest part of the movie, because like I said before, how much I hate spiders. If I see especially if I see a big ass spider like that, I'm out of there. I'm at, whether it's in the house or I'm outside, I'm out of there because I don't want that thing anywhere near me. Especially if it's in the house, I'm gonna take my ass and stand outside until you guys get that thing. Because you never know. It's just, you never know. Because that thing can probably just jump at me like this. If I see a big ass spider like that, because I remember a while back, I saw a segment on America's Funniest Home Videos, and when they see a spider, but when they're laughing, but first when the camera pans, it shows that spider that was in the corner, right, and that's a big ass spider, that was like huge, and people are laughing because they say, oh, they want to get a spider to the house, but when the camera turns, that's a big ass spider, and they zoom in. I'm like, I don't care. I'm staying out of that house until you guys get it. So it was kind of like that spider I saw America's Funniest Home Videos like a while back, and it was like this, and that was like a size of pretty much as big as my hand. I'm like, that's the scariest part of the movie, more than the actual werewolves themselves. Because I said before how much I hate spiders, but it's funny enough, I'm a guy who hates spiders, but yet I love arachnophobia or eight-legged freaks. So, it's kind of ironic though, but yeah. Like I said, that was the scariest part of it, but I do like the idea that he can clearly hear a big spider just walking, but it's very loud steps, but we can't hear that though. So I do like some of the interesting ideas, the usage of the werewolf powers, like enhanced vision, superhero like that. I do like the ideas of that, and some of the camera works I do like. I don't think Leigh Whannell, he doesn't do a bad job usage of the cameras and the shots of like the locations of the woods. So if there's any positives, those are positives I can give. And wherever he starts transforming, the practical use of practical effects with the fangs and like you see like the claws, like the fingernails ripping out and the claws are coming out. Okay, some good, little bit of practical makeup effects. But the thing is though, like I said, I just don't care about the family. Like the little girl, I don't think she doesn't do a bad job. Julia Garner, I think she was just bland. Or the lead guy, Christopher Abbott, I don't think he was not bad per se either. It's just they were just bland altogether. And when the guy's transforming, it's like I don't care about him. Now it's trying to do it, but maybe it's trying to do like a rendition of David Cronenberg's The Fly from 1986, which I love. I love David Cronenberg's The Fly with Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis. That's what did like the whole transformation. A guy who I felt sorry for a lot. I felt bad for Jeff Goldblum's character because how he's slowly transforming and he's like, help me, and well done, excellent effects, right, of him becoming the Fly. Well done, excellent effects. And the moment where when he tells him to when he raises the shotgun to his head like so, telling Gina Davis to shoot him, I felt bad for the guy, because he doesn't want it because. He's raising the shotgun for her to shoot him, telling her to end this. Anyway, that's what I felt bad for because he doesn't want to be this monster anymore. Please, it's mercy kill him. And it's trying to do its own version of that in a way, which I'm sorry, if you're trying to do that like David Cronenberg's The Fly, you're not gonna succeed. David Cronenberg's The Fly is another great remake from the 80s. As I think during that time, because I bought the chemistry between Jeff and Gina because I think they were going out at the time when that film was being made, which that makes sense now. But you're not gonna succeed at doing that version of The Fly. You're not. I mean, like I said, werewolf films, I think they're a whole lot worse. Like I said, there was the Howling sequels; those are much worse. I would probably say there was a film called 13 Hours that was worse. I just reviewed The Wolfman from 2010, the 2010 remake of The Wolfman. I thought that was better than this because at least that film has a much better cast and has much more better practical makeup effects by Rick Baker and well done gore effects as well. But I'm not gonna say much about that film either because I was not a fan of the film either. But if I had to pick, I would rather pick the 2010 remake of the Wolfman more than this Wolfman. Or I just my just previous one, Werewolves with Frank Grillo, I thought was cool idea, but potential wasted. I don't know what I pick, which is worse, that film or this film. I don't know. Or I mentioned Wolf with Jack Nicholson is trying to do a version of that, like for the guy. I think I'd rather pick Wolf more than this movie because I like Jack Nicholson, Michelle Pfeiffer, and even James Spader's in it. So if I had to pick, I'd rather pick the 2010 remake of the Wolfman over this, or Wolf from the 90s with Jack Nicholson more than this. As I was saying, they're going up there and they meet this guy Derek and to show him the way, and then they hit this creature, which it was like which he said was like Blake said it was like the same creature he saw when he was a kid, and then the guy Derek, he gets killed, and then but Chris Rabbit, he gets scratched by the werewolf, and so but they managed to make it to the house, and from then on it's pretty much them wondering what's outside, and Chris Rabbit slowly changing. That's pretty much the most of the time of the movie. Um, and as he's slowly changing, and the daughter does show that she cares about her dad more than her mom, which doesn't fully explain that though. And he's slowly changing. Like say he's starts chewing on his arm, and Julia Garner, she's just standing there like so. And that's when you see the spider with the advanced hearing, and so there one thing leads to another. Like as he starts changing more, becoming more of a werewolf, they want to deal with the other werewolf that's out there. So they do he goes like Christopher, he goes out to be the decoy while the wife and daughter while they try to get away. And we see the two werewolves fight, and it turns out that werewolf is his dad Grady. So it turns out he was a werewolf and kills him, but now Chris Rabbit, he's fully changing now, which you don't get the full werewolf form. It's more like the version like Jack Nicholson's version was. So he starts going after them. They get to that same deer tower that from the beginning. And so, and like I said, it's trying to do its own rendition of The Fly because because they say that Julia Garden, the daughter, I think the daughter's name is Ginger, trying to do it's like, oh, she can kind of like tell that her dad's not fully attacking them, right? They're just he's like slowly waiting for them to come out so he can attack, right? I guess she can kind of sense that he does not want to do this, so they have to do something that they have no choice but to kill him. It's kind of like the way in The Fly, like I said. Granted, it would be the husband here does not do the whole, raise the shotgun to the face so she can kill him. It doesn't do that though. Otherwise, that would be a blatant ripoff of The Fly. So, but one thing does lead to another. It's just that she does kill him, and so it's just like I said, everything about this film is it's forgettable. That's the thing. It's forgettable, and it was boring. Because overall, did I care about the dad transforming? No, I don't care about his plight or their plight. I don't care. I didn't care about Julia Gardner. I don't think she was a very bland. I thought both of them were bland, but I thought Chris Rabbit did give much bit of a better performance. The little girl, I thought she did fine. But like I said, I do like the location shots of the woods, use of the camera angles, like the almost like a 360. Or because like I said, this is when when they're being chased, they go into the barn where it's pitch black. This is where we see the from his vision, everything is all bright, not pitch black for what he sees. So there's when I mentioned they run into the barn where it's pitch dark, and this is where we see the bright vision of the wolf man. So okay, that's a nice usage of the. You don't see that. I don't see that often in other werewolf films. We see from their vision and everything they can see in pitch darkness where everything is bright. I do like that, and like I said, mentioned about the whole thing with the spider, he can hear its footsteps. But I said this, that spider was the scariest part of the movie because I hate that was a creepy ass spider that was huge. And it's not really a big body count movie because the only person that gets killed, the people that get killed, is the guy Derek from the beginning. Um, then Blake's dad, who was the first werewolf, and then him himself. You know, so it's not a big body count film. It's not a big gore. It's not a gory movie. And you don't get him as transforming into a full on werewolf, so you're not going to get that either. I know it's trying to do like its own little spin take ride, but if he's trying to be like David Cronenberg's The Fly, it didn't succeed. If you're going this to see another full on werewolf form, you're not going to get that either. At least it's trying to be more like the rendition of Jack Nicholson's version of Wolf. So, but like I said, it's not the worst film this year. It probably won't be in my top 10 of worst films this year. This is a boring, forgettable film. That's pretty much about it. I don't think it's not gonna be in my top 10 worst films of this year. But this year has been very shitty nonetheless, though. But it's just a very bland, boring movie, you know. So it's another dud for me from Bumhouse, and Leigh Whannell. I know like because due to the success of the Invisible Man, I'm pretty sure he wanted to do his own version to take on the Wolfman afterwards, but it didn't work out though because this film failed to get the reviews were not that great compared to the Invisible Man, but I wasn't a fan of Upgrade either, but it was just like I said, just it was a forgettable movie. That's what it was. So that's my take on Wolfman from 2025. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more. We'll see you next time for Halloween month. Later.